for us, as I said, it's a very important competition, and tomorrow is a huge game. You know, we need to win the game. We need to prosecute the game. We need to dictate the game, and hopefully we can do those things.
Maz, I think I saw you next.
Hey, Brian, I know it's a challenge, but it's got to be a welcome challenge. We've got such new players, the mixture of new players, young guys, and the congestion fixture Thursday and Sunday.
Yeah, it's tough, but you know, the way we look at it, you know, every competition is important. So yeah, we put a lot of stock in Champions League, but I would also say that we put a lot of stock in MLS Cup and Supporter Shield and Cascadia Cup and the Open Cup. Every game for those players, at least the mantra coming from us, the coaching staff, is that every game, regardless of who steps out on the field, is important for this club. That's an automatic for us. So I would say that, you know, you have a Champions League game than a league game. Is there more importance on either one? We take both of them equally as important. There will be lineup choices that we have to make for both, but you will be guaranteed, if I want to guarantee anything, is that the players that step out on the field both on Thursday and on Sunday will give it their all.
Jackson, I think I saw you.
Yeah, Coach, a lot is made in sports about championship loss hangovers. Now sometimes can't come back from a championship loss. Do you buy into any of that? Have you seen any
No.
guys?
Now, I'll cut you off there. No, it served as a really good, goal for Toronto after they lost to us in 2016. We will use it the same way. I think I've gone on record that, you know, last season was a good season by many standards, right? But that sickness in our stomach is still there. And it's because of one contest, one match. You know, Steph had 13 games, shutout streak. We only lost 2 out of our last 18. Dempsey had a resurgence. We certainly were proud of many different parts of last season. So I would say that even though people might say, okay, Sounders went to MLS Cup twice, had a good year, we won a conference championship in front of our fans, that emptiness is still there. And we will certainly use that to fuel another good season and another, hopefully, Title Cup game.
Just a reminder, if you could introduce yourself to our panelists for those that don't know you. I think I saw you next, Jose. Yeah.
Yeah, Jose Moreno, CNN. Coach, how do you account for the physicality that you'll experience tomorrow, given that you'll have a game coming up on Sunday?
The physicality meaning the fouling and the kicking, or just the movement of the players?
The fouling and the kicking. The game is different, right? They tend to be a little more physical than what we often see in MLS.
Well, I'm not going to paint them as just a bunch of dirty players. I mean, they do have some skillful players, some tactical players. So I wouldn't say that, you know, we don't have guys like Roman or Ozzy or guys that even young Cristian down there at the end of the table is learning to use his body in effective ways. I would probably try and remove that from the conversation and say that 50-50 challenges, the desire to win the ball, the ability to outduel your opponent in your area of the field, I think some of those physical challenges will be vital for the game tomorrow. And we hope to be on more of the right side of the duels than on the bad side of the duels.
Michelle?
Michelle Mendoza-Salem, Broadcasting Sports Timeout. You have some strength in midfield, in Stein, Ken, Magnus. You also mentioned Garth, maybe signing the DP attacker. Kind of interested in some strategy in 2018 for attacking, getting those goals and offense.
Sure. If you talk about, we feel like we have a number of very good attacking players. Obviously, Dempsey and Bruin. If you talk about our 4-2-3-1, and you talk about the attackers as those front 4 guys, Dempsey or Bruin can play that high striker role. And in the band of 3, you have Ladero and Victor Rodriguez and Ikram and Harry Shipp Lamar Nagel, a couple others that are in the existing group, and some young players in addition to those guys. But look, I think that's where we're going to look to add. I think we have, for me, if you look at our back seven, if you look at the two holding midfielders, the back four, and our goalkeeper, I think that we're probably the best defense in the league. Certainly since we added Leardom last year, we gave up a goal every 2 games. Now it's by far the best in the league. I expect that to continue, particularly now that we've added depth at center back. We have another year of experience with our outside backs, and again, with Gustav, Ozzy, and Christian there playing defensive mid, I think we're rock solid in that spot, along with Steph, who's one of the best goalies in the league. So I think we got that down. We need to maybe give ourselves some more options in attack, but again, I'm hard pressed to say that we don't have talent. If you look at DP striker on the roster already, and DP center midfielder, and a couple of TAM attackers in that band of 3 once we get to full strength.
Jaime.
We don't, precisely because we think we have a pretty good team. So if we get a good deal now, great. I talked yesterday. There's a very discrete window. So Russia and China, those transfer windows close at the end, literally today, at the end of the month. And as of March 1st, with the exception of Scandinavia, will basically be the only game in town, and will be the only big spending market in the world that's open. So if there are players that shake free that maybe aren't playing for their club, and they need to get into a team where they can play more ahead of the World Cup, you could see us, that stuff happens, and you could get a really good value that way. But if it doesn't happen, we feel like we brought back 16 of our top 19 players from last year, a team that's gone to back-to-back cups. So we don't see a need to worry, and we believe in the guys in our locker room, and these are guys that have done it back-to-back years, and we have every confidence that they're hungry and they can do it again. So if that means that we wait until the summer to add an option that we think is the best option, then we're going to do that.
Nico.
In regards to keeping in the back, it seems like a lot of his experience came from Qatar and K-League. How does his success in those leagues translate to the MLS? And is there any concerns in regards to his lack of gameplay at U17?
Yeah, I could start. I think you look at a player who's an international player for his country, looking to play in the World Cup this summer. That sets a certain standard for him. I think he was a champion 14-15 or 15-16 in Korea. So he's come from winning teams. It's a hard-working league, difficult league for defenders with the style of play they have. And I think he's shown composure in that position. And he kind of fits many of the things that we look for in center backs for our team. So I think in that rotation in the back for us, he's a really good fit.
Ross?
Yeah, great call. What are those things? I'm asking Mario, asking the sports guy. What are those things, that intangibles you're looking for center back outside of obviously intelligence, hardworking, and a good guy? But what are those on the field technical stuff you're looking for?
Yeah, I think first is the tactical awareness, how you play with your other backs, your movement. He does a really good job of when the ball's coming out and the team wins it, he pushes the defense up and brings his defenders with him. So he has that awareness of when to step up and reading the game. So game awareness, tactical awareness, and then one-on-one defending. How is he at winning balls in the air, his timing in the air, his man marking, his one-on-one defending. He has very good balance. And when he does win the ball, he's looking to split lines with passes, and he's composed on the ball.
Front row.
Coach John Marshall, MLS Great Britain. With Marshall and Torres returning this year, how do you expect to see him being used in the lineup this season? Are you going to be rotating in and out, or is he going to be more of a bench player coming on for substitute?
Well, we know that Roman is definitely going with Panama, so we'll need some games there. Fixture congestion through Open Cup, other competitions, hopefully a longer run in Champions League. There will be plenty of minutes for center backs this season.
If I can add to that too, just again, data points. You could play as many as 8 Champions League games. You could play as many as 6 playoff games. You have 34 league season games. So we looked at it in the offseason. We said, all right, just that, even that's not even counting Open Cup. That's 96 center back starts. So between the two of them. And so if you think of it in those terms, that's a lot of games, and you definitely need more than 2 players to eat the bulk of those. But the other thing that's really important here is MLS is getting better, and that's not my opinion. That's objectively true. The salary cap's doubled in the last 2.5 years, and we don't have a first team anymore. We may have a first group, or we have a young group that's developing behind our first group, but we don't have these are the 11 and they have to play, and if they don't, we're doomed. We have a much broader group now. We have much better depth, and it's a sign of the progress of the league that it's not a matter of rotating or subbing or starting. This is how many good center backs a good team has.
Harvey, and then back to Jeremiah.
Harvey, Sounder Hart, Pro Soccer USA. Garth, Chris, kind of as you just mentioned, the quality of the league is getting better. The Sounders have been a historically successful franchise. They've been to 2 MLS Cups in a row. What does this club need to adapt or maybe refine in its front office approach to ensure that it continues to enjoy that level of success?
Look, I think we need to continue to be efficient in our signings. We need to be proactive. So we haven't talked about this a whole bunch. I'll let Chris talk about how some of the reorganization we've made to the scouting department. But the reality is that we're competing against Toronto and Atlanta and New York, and these teams that are spending tens of millions of dollars on player acquisitions, and we got to be a little bit savvy about it. Now, the good news is because we have this amazing fan base here, we have resources that far exceed our market size. And as long as we have that and we have those fans and their support, we're going to be able to be competitive. But certainly it's incumbent upon us to make good decisions and smart decisions, and that's why when we get the question about signing a DP, part of the answer is we're going to make an intelligent choice and a good deal for the next 3 to 5 years. But Chris, do you want to talk about how we scout?
Yeah, we this year we have our scouting department has grown with commitment and ownership. We're able to have a full-time scout in Europe, full-time scout in South America, a scouting manager here, and then scouting all the way through our at the academy age. So that kind of covers every point within our organization of the teams coming up and developing players. And we're able to, at the beginning of this season, we're able to bring everyone in together and have a kind of a scouting symposium, so people know the culture of the club, the vision of the club, who we are, how the coaches think, what kind of players they're looking for. And then we're able to sit down, have our scouting calendars, set those up for the year. And I think if we can do that 1 or 2 times a year to have everyone together, it'll help us decide, which targets we're going to go for and make sure we get it right.
Jeremiah?
Yeah, Christian, it's obviously very early in the year to be having a winner-go-home type of game, but how do you go about balancing the immediacy of a match like that while knowing that you have another important match just a few days later?
Yeah, I think just as Schmetzer mentioned, we are going all out for this CONCACAF Champions League. I think it is vital for us as an organization to expand not only on MLS Cup and going for MLS Cup and going for Open Cup and going for Cascadia Cup, but look at the international stage and go for CONCACAF. CONCACAF is obviously probably one of the tougher tournaments in this region, and if we can match up against these Mexican sides and do well, we're bound to have a good season. But like Garth said, I think the quality of our locker room, from the number 1 guy to the 18 guy, can start in any other team and start on our team. So I think it starts with this game, and I think we have to compete and really take it to them. I think it's extremely important to make them feel uncomfortable, and we'll see a tough game and a tough opponent coming up.
Diego, you still have one back there? Yeah.
Yeah, I think playing with my little brother adds competitiveness within practices. Obviously, I train extremely hard and I want to compete in every way possible, but knowing that you have someone that's related to you, it just gets a little bit more out of you. So in that sense, it's fantastic. I think it'll motivate him, and it's a good way for him to grow as a player as well. You see good habits with other professionals, and hopefully I can be an example to him as well. So, I expect a lot from him, but also we don't want to put too much pressure because we've seen so much pressure add up to certain players, to young players, and they don't attest to that pressure. So I think he's grounded enough to realize where he's at, and I think he's bound for a fantastic year.
Felipe?
Cristian, how does it affect you when you knew that Jordan was injured and out of the season?
Well, I knew from the first moment of hesitation from Dr. Morris that it wasn't a good injury. It wasn't it was just a bad injury in general. I saw it in his face, and immediately, I felt bad. My stomach was just it just felt terrible. I felt so bad for him. I thought he was playing so fantastic in the preseason. I thought he was sharp, after January camp. So it's a really tough injury, especially, in the Champions League, first game of the season. But I think he is in good hands. I think he has a great support system back home with his girlfriend and his family. I think here with the organization, we're not going to rush him in any way. I think it's fantastic that we have such depth, and Will and Clint can play. But for him, for an individual's sake, I feel really bad, and I wanna be able to offer any type of help for him. Obviously, it's a tough injury, so I think the world of Jordan, but I think he's also going to overcome this because he has with diabetes and other pressure and hamstring injuries.
Back to Jackson, and I saw a few hands for Spanish language questions, which we'll get to at the end here. Go ahead.
Jackson Phelps, Sports Radio 950 KJR. Cristian, a bunch of you guys we've talked about now with seeing Kim Keevy, Waylon Francis, and Magnus Wolfmeister. How is the on-field chemistry starting to develop between the new guys? You guys have been here for a while.
Yeah, I think it's been good so far. I think that we can see the quality of players that we have on our roster, and if we're able to just switch one player out and put another player in for someone's health, for someone's rest, if there's an injury that happens, the World Cup, if we can build that chemistry, if we can have it like if no one's missing, right? I think it's going to be a strong team. You see with Waylon, Nuhu can jump right in. You saw it last year with him and Joven. Kim, with Roman possibly missing World Cup. So I think if we can keep that chemistry, if we can keep that dynamic very, very well, very strong, even with this condensed schedule, we can be dangerous and compete for not only Champions League, not only MLS Cup, but Supporters Shield and Open Cup as well.
Nico, back to you.
Another question for just the panel in general. We look across the street, there's a statue of Ken Griffey Jr. If there was a Sounder player who could have a statue outside, who would that be?
Schmetzer. Alan Hinton.
There we go.
Al, there you go.
Okay. Any other hands? Yes, Alan, of course.
Well, Al, I think you'll get a revitalized West because even just LAFC coming in is going to add another good team with a tremendous coach with a long resume. And then that's going to jumpstart the Galaxy, who, need to catch up. They don't want to be second best in their own market, which they've controlled for a long time. That's going to jumpstart the West. Then you look further south to our competitors down south, Portland, San Jose. They have new coaches. I know firsthand the new coach bump. The players will be eager to please their new coach and make sure that they're, solidifying their spot within the group. Vancouver has always been a consistent franchise. RSL last year made a big push at the end of the year. Came within points, single point, double points of missing the playoffs, but they were on a good run of form. I mean, that was one of the games we lost to them late in the season, and that was a strong franchise. So if I look at it and if I get a sense and feel for the traditional powers, I haven't, Dallas is certainly in the mix. It's going to be a tough division conference.
You know much about Kansas City, the new player signed from Dallas County. I've seen play lots. He looks a pretty useful player.
No.
Is a right-sided midfield player with a lot of speed.
Al, I've been focused on our team, so I got to get my team right, but I will definitely look them up.
Thank you, Gaffer. Appreciate it. Any other questions here before we go to Spanish? Is yours in English, Mario? Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, there was a lot of emotion. I hadn't been there for about 10 years, so I saw a lot of family members that I hadn't seen in such a long time. In terms of the game, it was a difficult game. We never made them feel uncomfortable. I felt like we couldn't, necessarily press them and get to the ball and get to those duels. So in that sense, I think it was tough. Losing Jordan for the season as well doesn't help us. It made the worst feel even worse. But at the same time, you got to be optimistic, and we scored away from home, and it was a fantastic goal by Nico. So if we can keep this shutout, I think we can pull away a win and get to the next round.
We'll take a couple in Spanish. We will let this go just in Espanol. For those that need transcription, we'll do it at the end. And if we need additional time with Cristian, if he's kind enough to give us a few more minutes, we can do a sidebar at the end in Spanish as well. But I'll flip it over to Jaime for a question.
Pues para mí había mucha emoción. El juego fue complicado. Para mí, ver mi familia fue un orgullo. Estaba bien contento de eso. También por mi hermano. Tuvo la oportunidad de jugar en frente de familia y pues jugar el primer juego de profesional conmigo. Y bueno, se complicó el juego y tenemos que regresar aquí listos para un partidazo, porque ellos van a venir a defender y nosotros tenemos que, si tenemos una oportunidad, tenemos que meter ese gol.
We'll do another in Spanish here for the record, and then we'll get additional Spanish questions here at the end. Jose, I think you were the one that had your hand raised.
José Moreno, CNN. Cristian, ¿qué esperas de Santa Tecla mañana, sabiendo que tienes la ventaja de la temperatura y la afición contigo?
Sí, pues ellos tienen la ventaja de estar ganando 2-1. Nosotros tenemos la ventaja de andar en casa y tenemos que jugar bien ofensivamente. Para mí va a ser difícil porque ellos van a tener hasta 10 jugadores atrás de la pelota defendiendo y ellos sí defienden muy bien, presionan muy bien y para mí se puede complicar, pero si tenemos esa oportunidad lo tenemos que meter.